Eyes of Tomorrow is an exotic solar rocket launcher that is available at the end of the Deep Stone Crypt as a random drop. You cannot buy this rocket launcher from the exotic kiosk, nor at the end of the raid chest. The only way is to pray to RNGesus and hope that it shines upon you with this rocket. Its exotic perk is Eyes for All, tracks and fires multiple targets simultaneously. Its secondary perk is Adaptive Ordnance. Killing 4 or more combatants with a single volley increases the damage of the next volley. First of all, let's start off by saying that this is the inevitable result of power creep in weapon design that comes from people demanding more and more interesting / powerful exotic weapons, because this weapon combines the power of literally 3 exotics into one. You got your hard-hitting rockets of Gallowhorn, your tidal wave of rockets like Wardcliff Coil, and your tracking rockets of Truth. Now that last one in particular is cracked because you can track multiple targets instead of just one, like with the aforementioned Truth. Of course, because of its ease of use, get used to seeing this thing everywhere you go in Gambit, because it's literally starting to annoy the crap out of me more than Xenophage is. Because at least with Xenophage, you need a line of sight. Tracking rockets here are so aggressive, it'll literally bend around corners to kill people, once again affirming my belief that Gambit needs to disable exotic weapons. In PvE, this thing will absolutely grind through packs of enemies, one-shot majors, and in some situations out-DPS the usual suspects of PvE DPS like Whisper. I say some situations though because for whatever reason this thing isn't all that great as a boss hitter, which is strange considering that it practically deletes everything else in the game. This limitation isn't limited to just the raid either. In any encounter with a yellow bar enemy, the damage is severely reduced to the point that double slug loadouts honestly would be better. In doing damage testing with Taniks, everyone was shocked to see that I barely just did better than the guy doing the divinity damage. The guy that on the team that's supposed to do less damage than everyone else was shocked that I barely did better than him, even with divinity. Now in terms of exotic synergy, you're extremely limited on choices, but I'd say 2 of them are actually pretty good. Let's get the bat out of the way with Khepri's Horn. Now since Eyes is a solar rocket launcher, it does work with it, but seeing as Khepri's Horn is borderline useless, we're honestly not going to talk about it, just ignore it. Now onto the real exotics. With Hunters, you get Sealed Ahamkara's Grasp. Dealing melee damage reloads your currently equipped weapon. This brings up the combo of firing a volley, then throwing an ice shuriken, then firing another volley. Obviously, you can also use throwing knives. Now, don't throw that second shuriken right away, or the second throwing knife, or whatever that you might be using for that melee, because apparently there's a cooldown for these gauntlets. Next up is for Warlocks with Phoenix Protocol and Sanguine Alchemy. Phoenix Protocol in that with 1 or 2 volleys you can get most, if not all, of your super back, and Sanguine Alchemy for damage increases with Enhancement Rift on top of getting your rifts back faster. I know you could pretty much use anything with these last 2, but the fact that you can single-handedly get most, if not all, of your super back in 1 or 2 volleys is pretty impressive, and that's before we even get into your team helping you get it back to begin with. Or with Sanguine Alchemy, just getting more damage out to begin with. It's honestly a no-brainer for me when it comes to using these 2 in particular. Now let's go over the downsides, and there are a few. Number 1 being that you can't move while you're tracking your targets. Eyes will start to zero in on your targets, only for the targeting to go away if you move at the aim at the same time. Best thing to do is to hold still for the second that it needs. The second problem is that this thing chews through ammo. Even while running double scavenger and double finder mods to get this thing topped off, I was floored by how often I was searching the ground for ammo. You essentially have to treat this rocket like it's a regular one, except in cases of large crowds coming at you, in which case fire a volley and clear all of them in just one go. However, this leads into the same complaint that I made in the State of PvE video, and I'll be saying it once again. Bungie, stop trying to make heavy weapons into ad-clearing weapons. It's not going to happen. We're not wasting precious, hard-to-find heavy ammo on trash mobs. That's what primary and secondary weapons are for. We're using heavy weapons on bosses and occasionally majors. We're literally only going to use this for ad clear when it's a huge crowd. Otherwise, we are not going to waste the ammo. Enough with this stupid design philosophy that heavy weapons are to be used for trash mobs. It's not ever going to happen. Final bad thing about this weapon is the aforementioned bad damage against bosses. Apparently, if you're in a non-endgame activity, well, then this thing does 32% more damage than a Xeno does. But if you're in an in-game activity, suddenly now it does 34% less damage, which is terrible. Instantly, this rocket goes into the trash bin for me in any in-game activity, because why would I bother with a rocket that isn't good in the one part of the game that I'm now relegated to now that I'm in the end game? I really hope this turns into a Xeno situation where it starts off as garbage, but it turns around to become one of the best weapons in the game. I really, really do. With that being said, you probably think I think this weapon is garbage, right? Well, yes and no. It's garbage in in-game activities where a weapon like this really needs to shine. This includes in certain areas as well. Your Nightfalls, your DPS phases and raids, your Primeval phases and Gambit. But it's everywhere else that this rocket just truly shines. It's honestly the first rocket launcher since the Leviathan rocket sins of the past that anyone actually gave a crap about, and for good reason. Its utilitarian aspects are amazing. It's just a shame that it sucks against anything that actually matters. So once again, is this weapon garbage? Overall, no. In-game, though, definitely yes. Thanks for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe, follow on Twitter and Twitch, and go pet a horse.